Today, I wanted to talk to you about another nonfiction book that I read a while ago. And this subject matter is pretty important to me because some of it I learned in my childhood. As I've mentioned in other videos, I did not celebrate Christmas as a child because my mom was Jehovah's Witness and it was just against our religion. I was told that Christmas was a pagan holiday, Jesus wasn't born on Christmas, and we shouldn't be celebrating it, and on and on and on. I had all these reasons why it was wrong. So I always felt that I was missing something. In spite of those rules, all the child sees on the media is how Christmas is wonderful and all these gifts. So I never had a part of that. I didn't believe in Santa Claus. I knew Santa Claus didn't exist because I didn't get any presents and I wasn't allowed to believe. So fast forward to now, I wanted to find out more about the origins of Christmas because I still had a lot of questions. And I noticed from talking to others that some still believe that's Jesus's birthday. Some still believe different things. And this is the book that I read that really helped me. I read two books. I'm talking about this one first because this one I read more recently. And it's a good book. It's called Christmas, A Candid History. And it gives a history of Christmas that answered a lot of my questions. Most of my questions were answered prior to reading this book because I read another book years ago. And the book that I read years ago is referenced in this book. The other book I read a long time ago was The Battle for Christmas. Hold on, I can give you the whole title. It was called The Battle for Christmas by The Battle for Christmas, A Cultural History of America's Most Cherished Holiday. That book, I have it in the house, but I just don't know where it is because my house is full of books. This one I read more recently, and this book references The Battle for Christmas, as a footnote for some of the information, and I was not surprised. But when I was an adult, like in my 20s, I did have questions about Christmas since I was never allowed to celebrate it. I never understood the correlation between St. Nicholas and Santa Claus. And this is before the days of the internet. Like I've mentioned in other videos, I am old. I'm older. I'm 58. So back when I was researching this, there was no internet. I went to the library and all I could find was a book about St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas the Saint. It didn't give the history as to how he became Santa Claus. I probably should have asked the librarian, but that didn't happen. So I probably needed to look at newspaper articles or magazine articles or something for more information. But that information I did get later in book format through Battle for Christmas. And then more recently, it was reiterated here. And let me refer to my notes as to some of the things that I felt were important in both publications that I think a lot of people don't really focus on, or some do. But the one thing that really stood out is the fact that it was celebrated before Christ came. It wasn't called Christmas, but people celebrated winter. And like you notice, Christmas is like right around the winter solstice. And winter was very cold and dark. So they would have parties with greenery and lights, basically to make people feel better. Because I kind of remember one time reading something about in Alaska, how it's really, a lot of times people are depressed because of it being so cold and dark for such a long period of time, since they don't really get much daylight, during the winter months. So kind of akin to that, they just did this to make themselves feel better. And a lot of times with farms and stuff, you couldn't really do a lot of farming and gardening, so you didn't have a lot to do. So people would drink and just, basically be rabble-rousers during this period of time. It wasn't the warm, festive season that we know of now. And actually, when the Puritans came over here, the Pilgrims, they didn't even celebrate Christmas. It was banned because there was so much drinking and debauchery going on. They didn't want to celebrate. So that's something to remember. It wasn't something that was celebrated, back at the very beginning. Now, my son did a paper one time for school, and he went over all this about the Puritans not celebrating holidays because they did not. And we a lot of the Christmas things that we do celebrate, some of the traditions, the author of the book Christmas a Candid Holiday, he likened it to a snowball, and I did like the way he described that. How, you know, when you make a snowball, let's say you make this huge snowball and you just roll it, and like little pieces of things kind of stick to the snowball, like twigs or maybe tiny rocks. And some things might stick to it and then fall away. And then you've got this big ball of stuff with stuff stuck to it from different places. And sometimes it's kind of hard to determine where certain Christmas traditions actually originated. At times it's hard to determine that. It depends. But the Christmas that we know of today, that started in New York. I believe it's sometime in the 1800s. I don't have the date here in my notes, but there was a group of people, a New York society. John Pintard, that's one of the people that was instrumental in getting Christmas to the point that we know of today, where it's this happy family time, a time for employers to give their employees a bonus, the time to buy gifts for your kid, and be like buying the gifts for the children. That's more of like a family oriented holiday that he and some others within this New York society were trying to get started. And another thing that was another thing that happened with that is the fact with the consumerism, about how a lot of the stores, they're going to benefit from this because people are going to be buying gifts for their kids. So you notice how Christmas is really still commercialized nowadays. And how St. Nicholas became Santa Claus. That poem, you know, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, A Visit from St. Nick, that was printed in the paper. And that was one thing that helped to make the St. Nicholas from, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago to be Santa Claus. And, you know, Washington Irving, he was instrumental in this as well. He was part of this whole group of people. And he had a poem where he mentioned St. Nicholas. And that was another factor that helped to, you know, push Christmas onto the map as to how we know it today. And that's the most important things that were outlined in, or the most important things I felt that were outlined in both of these books. I highly recommend them because it gives you insight about Christmas, because I know a lot of people might not really think about it. I believe most people realize that Jesus was not born on Christmas. Now, my thoughts about Christmas, do I celebrate it? I love it because I didn't celebrate it as a child. So is my house decorated as Christmas? No, not really. But I like looking at Christmas lights, and I like to bake cookies. I do my own little Christmas thing. I don't think anything's wrong with celebrating it. And I think it's fine that's the date that we, you know, celebrate Jesus' birth. I think that's okay. So, if you like Christmas stories, then I would like for you to consider reading my books. I try and write a Christmas novel every year, either a novel or a novella. Do I always get around to it? No, but I'm trying. So I have I have all of these novels: Loving Luke, Sugar and Spice, Cinnamon Kisses, and Rocky Road Dreams. That's my personal favorite. Check them out. Also, Butterscotch Bliss. That one was recently released. It's an exclusive ebook for all of my newsletter subscribers. So it's the Butterscotch Bliss is not at Amazon, but the rest of these are. And I'll leave all the links in the comments so that you can come and see my books and click on the links to read more about them. Hundreds, literally hundreds of 5-star reviews on Amazon. So go check them out. CECELIADOWDY. I'll leave links in the comments for all of that. So I would like to thank you for listening to this video, listening and watching this video in its entirety. And I hope you have a pleasant day.